Hey everybody. Oh boy. So I kind of had a little bit of a realization this evening. I went out to my garden. You know, Mike, he's been out of town a lot. He's working out of state actually. And I've been working full time. Last year we were both home. The year before we were both home, and last year he was home and I was working during the daytime, and we got a lot done. It's now a week into July and I'm a little panicked. My garden, it's not a garden. I've got a couple of plants. You know me, I normally grow enough to can for the winter. Normally by now we're well into putting wood up and letting it age for the fall and the winter. We do have one pile of wood that he got put up a couple weeks ago, but probably enough for last half of October and November. I've been getting home from work late. We've been busy at work. I work at a resort, so obviously vacation time. And I get home, I got to clean up whatever mess the dog's made in the house, which is pretty dramatic usually. He's a husky puppy. And by the time I get that done and I go get the eggs and whatever, there's no time left. So I'm really faltering this year on being a prepper. Now granted, I've got enough food still canned and put away that it's not a terrible big deal. There'll still be food this winter. It's just, the point of it is when you're homesteading by yourself and working a full-time job, it's practically impossible unless you hire some help, and that kind of defeats the purpose in a way. So I'm gonna obviously have to change some of my strategies at this point. So, you know, there's not gonna be a whole lot of canning videos this fall, the end of the summer, unless I wind up getting some stuff from some friends. I mean, I don't know. But I've just been feeling a little bit overwhelmed. You know, I spent the spring, the last half of the winter and springtime dealing with Operation American Spring while I was working full-time and trying to put in the garden, and my priorities were a little different this spring than normal, and so it's pretty evident and has me a little stressed out. I mean, not because I think that I'm gonna starve to death or anything. That's not the case. It's just, when you're a prepper and you live that lifestyle, you become accustomed to having certain things, you know, that you count on. And one of those being a couple years worth of foods. One of those being you become an excellent gardener. You get your green thumb, you know, and it's just really hard to do all of this and have a full-time job and do it by yourself. It's something that just kind of reminds you that it takes, I don't necessarily want to say community, but I'm going to use that word, to be on your own and put up firewood and grow gardens and raise chickens and dogs and take care of a house and all that. It's hard to do when you're working full-time. And so I guess the ultimate goal for any prepper that wants to homestead would be to learn how to make money enough off their homestead to support themselves. And clearly I'm not at that point. So I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed. You know, there's a couple political things I'm paying attention to, but for the most part, I'm kind of over it in a way. It's really clear that nobody's going to do anything until somebody comes knocking at their door. And that's very discouraging to me. And I've been through it a couple of times with several of the protests and events that I have put my heart and soul into. And I'm not saying that everybody out there should feel the same way I do and believe in the things I believe in, and there should be 10 million people at the things that I attend, because part of the beautiful part about being in a republic and or democracy is that you get to have two sides and you get to see who the majority is. My problem is that most of the time the majority that would be with me is off working. I mean, our group just doesn't take time off from work. We're not in that position by majority. And by majority, most of us are a little bit more private. And so nothing, we just sit around and type on a keyboard and, you know, Facebook warriors. And I'm really tired of that. My heart really cannot give too much more to movements or groups of people that are not as passionate as I am. And, you know, it's like this border crisis thing. There's positive and negative about it for me, personally. Militia, California, I'm seeing that town stand together saying, no, we don't want these busloads of immigrant children. And that's kind of encouraging that there's actually more than, you know, a dozen people showing up for one cause. But it shows, again, that local mentality. People aren't as apt to act on behalf of the nation. They're more likely to act on behalf of themselves or their neighbor. And that's it. Their neighborhood. That's it. It's as far as it goes. So be it. You know, that's better than nothing, I suppose. I was watching on Fox News this evening on Greta. I was just walking through the living room and I saw the groups in Marietta still there and blocking the buses from coming in. Now, at the same time, there was a note across the bottom that a group has called for the militia to head to the border. Guys, gonna give you some advice. Already did, as have several other people on here. Don't jump in your car and run to the border, okay? First of all, that's not the same thing as going to help Clive Bundy and his family. It's a very different game, and you really are better off standing with your neighbors in your local community against something like that. This one's on the head of our federal government. Let them handle the border itself. Now, if it comes to your town, yes. There's many reasons why I say this. One being that the call to actions that had been put out were not legitimate. They were not formally put out by a militia. Now, because a couple of militia wannabes are taking to it and they're seeing the groups out there in Marietta, my experience over this last 6 months with these gatherings of so-called militia, they've not been very positive. Our culture and our society is not to that point. We can do it on local scales. We cannot handle it on national scales. It turns into nothing more than a drama, gossip, rumor, who's got the biggest swinging dick fest. And I'm not exaggerating. Review the old Bundy situation, if you will. In the meantime, the fact that 0407 Anonymous had done a lot of research into the call for the militia to go to the border, and there was like 2 people there. There was no organization. They wanted you to meet 41 miles in from the border in the middle of nowhere. It's just not, it's not. If you want to do something, go to Marietta, California and support the residents there. Or prepare to find out where closer to you these bus loads are coming in. If everywhere the bus goes, they're blocked, that's going to make a louder statement than 24 guys showing up down at the border in camo, getting into a drama fest and it turning against each other. You know, the Bundy Ranch scenario, not the Bundys, but the militia situation against Oath Keepers is prime #1 example. Throw in what we've saw not happen with the OAS. There's not a unified mission. There's not a singled out qualified leader. It's just, it's not good. But regardless, do what you want to do. It's just my suggestions. And I just, if you do go, I want you to be careful. And I want you to be aware of the fact that when you go, be more prepared to look out for yourself. Even though you're with a brotherhood of sorts, just remember that not everybody goes on these missions for the right reasons. Some people go out of ego. Some people go because it's their new calling for income, generate revenue. Some people go with a pure heart, and those are very few and far between. So I think you're better off, in my opinion, to focus on the smaller localized protests and let a leader be born out of that. See who is able to lead on a smaller scale. And then let's see what we need to do. But for now, all you're going to do, you're going to get into a popularity contest. There's going to be a couple of people, you know, YouTubers and such, that even people who own businesses, prepping supplies and stuff, that are going to go for no reason other than hoping to get on to Fox News with Greta. Period. So, just beware and take care. As for me, the odds of you seeing me at any other function outside of my county is next to 0. If you do see me go, then you know it's a big deal. But somebody's going to have to prove to me it's a big deal before I go. So anyway, guys, I just want to tell you, I'm just, you know, prep or fail for the summer. And, you know, obviously my videos reflect the fact that I've not been doing a lot of prepping, and it does not take long for everything you've worked for to just fall apart. So take it as it is. Hope you're doing good.